If you're in your 20s, then consider yourself really lucky. That's because you have the one thing that money can never buy, which is time. Even Warren Buffett, who's one of the most well-known entrepreneurs and investors of all time, said it himself. I can buy anything that I want, but I can never buy time. Considering that there's about 8 billion individuals in today's world, there's many of you that are in this bucket. The decisions that you make in your 20s can really make or break whether you're going to be rich or not in the future. Think of the 20s as this precious time that you can never buy back, where you make either really good decisions that can make your life really easy in the future, or you make really bad decisions which can create a tumbling effect and make you go downhill very quickly. My parents used to tell me all the time, work hard in your early life, that way you can reap the benefits later on. Myself included, I'm in this boat of uncertainty with all of this time ahead of me, but one thing for sure that I know that you guys are probably thinking as well is that I want to be rich when I grow up, right? I want to be making more money than I am today, and I want to be more financially secure than I am as of right now. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Mayor Aurora. I used to work as a federal economist for the US government, so I know a thing or two about investing as well as market research, and my job in this channel is really to educate you all so you have the true awareness of what it means to be financially free, as well as provide you good habits to help you in your life if you're young. So in this video, let's look at the 5 most important things that you can do in your 20s to really be chilling in your 30s. So the first thing on this list is creating a budget, and creating a budget is perhaps one of the most important things that you could do. And I know that budgeting really sucks, but trust me, it's super important. Budgeting is so important because it provides a control on your finances. It shows you a picture of both where your money's going as well as perhaps where it shouldn't be going. In fact, 68% of consumers say that budgeting would help them, and almost half say that they've never even had a budget. And without a budget, you're probably spending money on things that are really not that important. Those daily coffee runs that you say you may need, those impulse shopping purchases are all things that you could cut down on and that you would really discover if you had a budget to begin with. On the topic of budgeting, I mainly focus on 2 main things. First, having a budget, and secondly, tracking your budget. So on creating a budget itself, I simply use a budget planner like these, which allow me to see a big picture for the month in terms of how much I have to spend and where the money can really go in terms of the different buckets. Tracking my budget is pretty easy because I use the Chase mobile app to see both my spending habits as well as where I need to perhaps cut my expenses. It provides me an at-a-glance view of all my spending habits as well as a downloadable PDF to view as a report. And I really encourage you to check with your credit card provider to see if there's a similar app if you're not using Chase. And I'm sure there is because I use other credit cards, and most credit cards have the feature of tracking your expenses via the app on your phone. The key with budgeting in the end of the day is to truly stay disciplined. In fact, according to nerdwallet.com, 84% of Americans who have a monthly budget still sometimes exceed their budget. To me, budgeting is basically like going to an arcade. You have a certain number of tokens you can use on games, and once you run out, you can't play anymore. It's a harsh limit on how much I can spend in a certain month on certain categories. Investing early is the second thing on this list, and it's also extremely important. Investing early is important because of something called compound interest. And before we get into an example of what compound interest is, I made a separate video on this, so definitely check that out. So if we take a simple example, let's say you have $1,000 invested in your brokerage account that gives you about 7% annually on average. Instead of just keeping that money in a savings account where you get very low interest, you invest in a portfolio that earns compound interest through the appreciation of your investments. After the first year, you earn 7% of your $1,000, which is $70. So at the end of the first year, you now have $1,070. In year 2 now, you don't just earn 7% on your original $1,000, you now earn 7% on that $1,070. So after the second year, you now have $1,144.90. And the process continues, and your interest returns get bigger and bigger. And I like to think of it almost like a snowball rolling down a hill, right? As a snowball starts at the top and makes its way down the hill, it gains more and more snow on its way down. And think of it like your nest egg in terms of investments. The more time you have ahead of you, the more it has to basically compound, and you get the gist of it. So that's the beauty of compound interest. The longer you have for your money to grow, the more money will grow. And that's why it's important to start in your 20s, because you have so much time ahead of you. So third thing on this list is contributing to retirement accounts, specifically Roth retirement accounts, either the Roth 401k or the Roth IRA. And I made a video to explore retirement accounts as well, so be sure to check that out. Contributing to retirement accounts is super important for your future, specifically as I mentioned towards a Roth IRA. It basically offers money growth that's tax-free. These accounts are free to create, and the earlier you start investing in them, the more your money will grow tax-free, linking back to the concept of compound interest. The trade-off here is that the money you put in a Roth IRA is from money that's already been taxed. So for example, when you earn income, whether it's from a job or a business or different investments, that income is subject to income taxes. After tax means that you've already paid those taxes on the money before you put it into the Roth IRA. For example, if you earn $50,000 and you're taxed at a 20% rate, you'll pay $10,000 in taxes, leaving you with $40,000 in take-home pay. That remaining $40,000 that you now have is your what we call after-tax income. When you contribute to a Roth IRA, you only use money that's already been taxed. So, for example, if you decide to contribute $5,000 of this to your Roth IRA, you're working with and contributing money that's already been taxed at your regular income tax rate. So basically, the government has already taken its fair share of taxes of this $5,000 that you're investing. Another reason why the Roth IRA is so important is because there's income limits, and once you exceed those income limits, you can't contribute to these accounts anymore. That's why it's super important when you're in your early 20s, because when you're not too advanced in your career and you're not making too much money, you're still eligible to contribute to these accounts. And later in life, when you're making more money, you won't be able to perhaps contribute to these accounts because of the income limit. So in addition to income limits, there's also a contribution limit in terms of how much you can contribute to these accounts. And that is about $7,000 for 2025. The earlier you start contributing to your Roth IRA, the bigger your quote unquote piggy bank is going to get filled. And when you hit retirement later in life, you'll have this huge nest egg of money. And the best part of it is you don't have to pay any tax on it. Fourth thing on this list is establishing good credit. Maintaining a good credit score is essential if you want to survive in America and in most other countries, to be quite frank. A good credit score symbolizes that you as a borrower can pay back the money, or in other words, credit, on time and in full. It basically means that you're less risky to lenders. Good credit is firstly important because, one, it allows you to have the lowest interest rate on loans. This could save you a ton of money over time, especially for large loans. One type of large loan that most Americans go through at least once in their life is to buy a home, also known as a mortgage. If you're trying to buy a house later in life, but you carry a bad credit score early in your 20s, let's say because of some poor decision when you were young, it could really hurt you. According to mortgage reports, as your credit score tanks, your mortgage rate increases significantly. And while this may mean nothing based on percentage, if we valorize the amount of interest as well as the monthly payment that you need to make per credit score, on average, someone with a better score saves significantly more money over time. And even if you're saying, hey Mayor, you know what, I don't want to buy a home right now, I'm super young in my career, or I never want to buy a home, I like to rent, and I want to be flexible and travel the world, landlords themselves also look at credit scores, so it's super important. Sometimes landlords will give you a higher security deposit, or they will not even accept you, right, for having a lower credit score. So it's super important to have a good credit score if you're really looking to either rent or to own a home. Without a good credit score, it's nearly impossible to responsibly buy something important that you need. Good credit scores also allow for higher credit limits, which means that the bank will give you more money to work with. And basically the message is, the more you pay on time and in full, the better reputation that you have with your bank to give you more and more money to play with and buy the things that you desire. I like to think of credit score as basically your financial reputation. It's sort of synonymous with a report card. Without having good grades or good credit, it'd be really hard to take that next journey in life. It's essentially a measurable metric that either allows a person to have opportunities, or it's a measurable metric that basically takes opportunities away from someone. Last but not least, I'd say most people in their 20s resonate with the most is something called lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is interesting because it's one of those things that can really creep up on you and you won't even notice. So recently we've all been impacted on how expensive things have been in the past few years relative to where the economy once was. Inflation itself is a concept that's driven more politically by government policy and by supply-demand shocks. However, lifestyle inflation is this somewhat newer trend that people can control themselves truly. It simply refers to one's spending increasing as their income is increasing. For example, you get that new job, that new promotion, you decide to buy a fancy car or a bigger house. Remember, net worth is all about savings minus expenses, assets minus liabilities, how much you own minus how much you owe. If we revisit the basics, if you earn more money but your expenses remain relatively flat, you will save more money over time. If you go back to the number one rule in this video of budgeting, lifestyle inflation can easily be controlled. Living below your means while also having a balanced approach to enjoying some of the finer things in life at certain special moments can truly be the best strategy. Let's take an example of comparing my two buddies, Mark and Gary. Mark and Gary both work at the same company and they get the same exact promotion. They both now make 100 grand a year. Mark decides to invest $500 a month for the next 6 years, earning 8% interest on average. Gary, on the other hand, decides to impress all of his friends and take out a 6-year loan to buy a fancy car for $500 a month. 5 years later, we see that Gary is down $36,000 with a car that depreciates its worth over time. Whereas Mark now has $45,600 of money, given that he only put $36,000 in, made an easy $9,000 worth of profit by simply holding his money. Gary fell to the classic trap of lifestyle inflation. You don't want to be Gary. He just did this to impress his friends and to look good in society, and that is not the ideal philosophy if you're trying to be rich and financially independent very quickly and earlier in your life. Mark, on the other hand, is an example that you should follow because he's creating this nest egg for his future that will continue to grow and grow as time progresses. So there you have it, 5 of the most important rules that you can follow if you want to be financially independent starting earlier in your life, especially if you're in your 20s. Remember, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, making sound decisions, making the right choices today, and the sacrifices you need to enjoy your life moving forward. Whether it's about investing early or by simply managing your money by creating a budget, these habits at the very least should give you a strong financial foundation for your future. So if you found this video super helpful, please, if you really could, it helped me out a lot, give this video a like and subscribe and comment down below your favorite rule, or if perhaps there's a rule that maybe I didn't list that you follow, that would be super helpful. Here's to making your 20s the start of a financially secure and successful life. Cheers guys, I'll see you in the next video.